Hello, I'm Pete Lockett. Welcome to Lesson 6 and the final instalment of our brief look at introduction to frame drumming techniques. We're going to add a few new things this lesson to what we've done so far. I'd just like to point out as well, this is really just the tip of the iceberg in terms of frame drumming. A lot of the techniques and the way that performances are articulated on these drums is so very detailed and in depth that a proper study of the instrument really will take you a lot further. But having said that, this is a good introduction. It gets you used to the basic sounds and some basic ways of articulating rhythm on the instrument. Now, so far everything we've done pretty much has been involved right, left as the main sort of starting point for all our rhythms, just to keep it very simple and to get ourselves on the road. So even when we've been looking at odd units of time, we've still been mainly focusing on right, left, and not really any other involved type of fingerings as such. So this time we're going to look at a different fingering, and involves right, left. And there are numerous ways that we can articulate that using the sounds. So the first way that we're going to look at it is right with the first finger, the open tone, right with the ring finger on the rim, and then the rim on the left hand as well. And it will be like this. This is example 1. The next way we can articulate that particular pattern, and this will begin to make more sense, and we see the reason why we're doing this when we begin to incorporate them into rhythms a little bit later. The second method is right with the slap, right with the open tone, and then left high pitched. So now we can begin to put both of those together. This is example 3, and we have 2 of each of those, 2 of example 1 and 2 of example 2. And it will sound like this. So we can begin to hear that sound if we listen to a lot of great modern frame drum players, modern hybrid frame drum players, such as Glenn Velez, Randy Gloss, for example, Lane Redmond. There's a lot of great frame drum players who are kind of using these type of techniques and creating this type of sound by using different fingerings and different ways to combine the tones and come up with kind of fluid rhythms. So if we take example 1, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, we have 6. We'll just add one note on, right, left, 2/16, 1/8 note. And then we'll have this. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. So now we're going to move on. In example 5, we're going to have the last accented note as a slap. So we'll have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, slap. So we can see it's kind of an interesting way to be able to create some rhythms that are quite fast, and actually because of the fewer notes that are played with the left hand, the weaker hand, it's kind of easier to begin to articulate those type of rhythms at an early stage. So if we look at example 6, we have a similar approach, but using the method in example 2, which we would recall as being So we can see that begins to create completely different feels and completely different sounds than we had with the lessons that we've looked up to so far up to now. So we can begin to see how different some of these rhythms are from what we've looked at so far in the series of lessons. This technique really does lead to kind of some different rhythmic shapes and different rhythmic patterns. Let's look at a similar pattern. Instead of the slap on the end, we'll just have the high pitch sound. This is example 7. So this is a really, really interesting technique. And for me, it's the cornerstone of a lot of what I do with some of my hybrid frame drumming technique. It's important to bear in mind that there are kind of two paths, and you can kind of combine both actually. If you want to just study specifically traditional frame drumming, you could go and learn with you know, a Middle Eastern teacher, or find someone who knows that specific idiomatic style. And if you wanted to just learn you know, hybrid frame drumming, then you could do that. But I think the ideal optimum is the middle ground. So if you learn some proper traditional rhythms and some of the settings for the rhythms and how the music is approached, and also some of the hybrid techniques where Indian drumming techniques, or you know, different drumming styles are brought into the arena with the frame drumming. It makes for a much more interesting package in the modern world as far as I'm concerned. So if we go through to example 8, we can begin to see how this can be utilised with some of the broken patterns by just beginning to mix a few things together. type of pattern would be very, very difficult to articulate with any other method other than this, in this position. Of course, if you were playing in the position where you held the drum between your legs in any way, shape or form, of course you could begin then to get some of the bass notes played with the left hand. This is very difficult in this position with this drum. However, with drums such as the rick, the Arabic tambourine with a sets of large heavy brass jingles, often because of the playing position of the drum, the left hand also plays some of the bass strokes. So it's important to remember that as you switch between different drums, different techniques and different ways of articulating rhythms apply and are more successful or not. So let's look at example 9. So that's basically using example 1 and example 2 from this lesson. So example 1 was example 2. So we have that, example 1, example 2 plus really interesting ways of the rhythm moving and kind of the bass notes coming in different places and the accents coming in different places. It's really a funky, if you can begin to spend some time using some of these units and you know, manoeuvring in them and manipulating them and rearranging them in the way that we did with some of the stuff from the previous lessons, then you kind of really are setting yourself up on the road to begin to develop your own voice. It's really important with any percussion instrument or any instrument at all, is that it's not just a matter of learning what you might see in the lessons here or elsewhere and you know, learning those by rote. It's really important that you develop your own voice and find ways to improvise and move forward musically with the things that you actually want to do, because the most important thing with all of this is you. And you know, I'm not being flippant saying that. It's really true. You have to find your voice and make your music, because that's the point, you know, of the whole thing, and is why, you know, you are so, you know, passionate about wanting to learn something from, you know, drum techniques, and why you're looking at this video right now. So, you know, you have to focus on find what's inside as well as the technical stuff you can see on the outside, and see how you can bring that into voice, your own in a musical direction. So we're going to move on to the final example, and we can see finally, you know, how some of these things can again be put together in quite a simple way. So thanks for checking all these lessons out. I hope you found them of benefit and have enjoyed it enough to, you know, decide to proceed further with frame drumming. It's certainly given me an enormous amount of pleasure in my musical life. So it's definitely a road worth continuing on. So enjoy, and I hope to see you soon again. Pop by my website, petelockett.com, and see you soon.